What's good, guys? LM7 here. It's been 100 bajillion million years, but I am back right now with a very special review of the first and only Ultimate Collector's Republic Dropship. So this is obviously a custom set based on the scale of 75-309 Republic Gunship. That is my favorite set ever. So I always had in the back of my head, well, why doesn't anyone try to make a scaled Republic dropship with this gunship? And how difficult would it be? Well, I had the time to do some designing, and I acquired probably some of the final gunships ever for a pretty decent deal. And here we go. It actually is doable to create it. Couple things right off the front. Yes, I know it's not the right color. The thought behind this design was, yeah, you can use a million different pieces and design it on the computer and it looks all official. But I actually wanted to sit down and build it myself. You know, really no technology included, just me sitting there thinking. So after about 8 days of solid building, we have a final product, and I'm pretty proud of how it turned out. But yeah, like I said, I know it's technically not the right colors, but it's based on the Republic gunship, so you get red and green instead of red and dark blue. But it is what it is. The color changing wouldn't be impossible, but it would be annoying, to say the least, at this point anyway. So yes, it is a custom mock that I designed based on the collector's gunship. I wanted to see initially if you could, by removing the inside of the gunship, you know, the doors and the troop bay and the bubble guns and all that. I thought if you remove that and add it to the wings, you could solo create a dropship based on a gunship. And I did a whole bunch of, you know, mathematical calculations on some note cards and stuff. And in theory, it kind of worked, but then in actuality, it didn't. Before we look at the details, I bought a gunship, and it was a used one that someone was trying to get rid of for pretty cheap. And I was all excited. I was like, yes, I can try out this mock. You know, it doesn't cost $1 million. And then I get it, and the dude sent 3,292 pieces of the gunship loose in an untaped box with holes in it. So needless to say, it lost some parts along the way, including some of the most important ones that would hold the wings on, and unacceptable. And after a week of figuring that out, I got to send that back unhappily. But then there was the sale at Lego, and as I was going to buy it, they sold out, and I was sad, and I thought, okay, the dream is dead. There will be no dropship. But then I actually got one for an early birthday gift, and it re-sparked the dream, and here we are. But to answer my previous statement, no, it is not possible to build a scaled dropship with only one gunship. You could, but then it would be inaccurate, and I was like, well, what's the point of being inaccurate if you're making an ultimate collector set? You know what I'm saying? So here we are with that. So at the end of the day, this dropship consists two normal 75-309 Republic gunships. So that's, if this was a real set, it wouldn't actually be the cost of two gunships, but it would, we'll get to that later. So as we can see, it is quite large. Its scaling is almost 1-to-1 with the gunship. It ended up being a touch longer because of the difficulties of the wings, and we'll come back to that when I show some closer details and stuff. But the measurements for this big boy, it's actually longer than the new UCS Venator. So it comes to 48 inches long with the guns, and it's 44 wide with the wings, like that. I say like that, like they can move. No, the wings can't move at all. And then it is 18 inches tall. So it is a big boy. Scaled wise, compared to every Lego Star Wars set, it matches the length of the Super Star Destroyer, and then nothing else can compete with its width. So this is technically my largest set size-wise, which I think is pretty cool. And the fact that I designed it myself, I'm surprised I even did it, to be honest. I've never designed something, especially this scale, so it was pretty fun. Anyway, it's a big boy. As you can see, there are 2 stands holding it up, which was necessary. I was going to go with one bigger one, but the weight of the wings required an additional support there, so it's honestly, it's very sturdy. It's not going to fall apart anymore. There was some design struggles in the middle there. But let's get on to some details. Other than its massive size, the grand total equals 5,010 pieces. So it's it's not 2 gunships worth of pieces. There were some decent pieces left over. And obviously, like, you know, the big pieces like the windshield pieces and the bubble guns and all that kind of stuff, I didn't use those. But 5,010 is a pretty decent number. It definitely feels like 5,010. It's not the heaviest set ever, but if you were to pick it up like this, it can separate into 2 halves, and I will show where it does that later. But I designed it so you can separate the front long half and the wing section for easier carrying, because otherwise it's just kind of obscene to carry, and you would need 4 hands to do it. So yeah, at 5,010 pieces, it's a little less than the new Venator, but, you know, almost twice the gunship piece count, which is nice. I think that's for a collector set, that's pretty good. Now, nowadays, a set of this size, I'd say would probably cost the same as a Venator. If it was a real set, it would probably be $649.99. In an idealistic world, it would be $499, but, you know, whatever. In reality, this actually cost $800 because it's 2 gunships I had to buy to get it, but we don't talk about that, and that it wasn't exactly $800. So $649 I think would be what Lego would actually charge, which for its size I think would be okay. I would be excited if you could get one of these for real. And in case anyone's wondering, no, I didn't make instructions because like I said, I did this without any computers at all. So it was just me designing and testing things on my own. So there is no paper trail. It's all I have are sticky notes of like how big things should be and my quick ideas on what you would do with it. But let's look at some of our details here. Here is the cockpit and the front of the dropship. This part right here, the front green section, actually turned out really nicely, I think, at the end of the day. But this was my first real challenge when it came to designing. Because I kept the gunship way that they have the cannons on the front, but then the dropship had to be longer than the gunship's section and also had to be 2 inches taller to be accurate. Like I said, this is scaled to the gunship, so and up until the length is the only thing that didn't end up being 1-to-1 with the gunship. And honestly, I'm okay with that. So the front here, I had to extend three or four studs, and to make the angles right, it was interesting, to say the least. It took a couple hours. I think it took 2 hours to finally get the right shape, and then to get it to where these side panels here could fold down nicely like they should. This part right here, the actual top section, was pretty easy. It's pretty close to the gunship. The top section was edited, obviously, to be much longer because that's the main body of the dropship. But it's basically the same thing. And the internal structure of this long body section is pretty close to the gunship. There is some changes, especially Technic-wise, to keep it together. But other than that, it's the same principle of their, can't even think. They're plates with studs on the side, so then you can connect these panels. And these panels were quite difficult, just based on the parts I actually had available. Did the shape turn out perfectly? No, because I actually ran out of parts, but it's pretty close. For, it's the right shape. It's a little jagged, I know that, but, you have to mirror it and build one side and then flip to the other side and try to match it and then hope it lines up properly. And then I built the front before I built the back, so I didn't know how it was actually going to all connect, but it turned out. And I even got the tubing thing. I thought those dark gray pieces worked in my favor. I was like, I got a lot of these. What am I going to do with them? And thankfully they worked for the greebling of the pipes, because the gunship doesn't have anything even close to that. So that worked out. Nothing real crazy. Like I said, the front was a little taller. That's an extra stud taller now. The second cockpit is gone. It just doesn't have one. And so that's actually the second thing I built. I did this second. Our first thing is our massive wings, which each wing is 21 inches long, and it's pretty heavy. But I kept the same thickness as the gunship wing, so it's the heaviest part of the ship. And it took the longest when we get to the the middle. But it's all the same principle, really, as the gunship. It's got that sloped panel right there that covers the middle where you connect the wings and stuff. That was a pain because it's just such a big panel. But the wings have a ton of pieces in them. If you have the gunship, then it would be the wing of the gunship plus the door panelings plus some of the middle, the body section of the gunship for each wing. But it turned out, and for the first part, if I couldn't get the wings right, this probably wouldn't have happened. But because they actually turned out, I got both wings designed and sturdy in a day. And I was pretty happy with that. So then we carried on with the rest. But there's nothing crazy. I had to use, I think it's cool for detailing. You can see that I used left and right 12x3 wedge plates to cover some of the paneling because it was such big areas to cover. And, it gives those little slash marks for detailing. And I thought it was kind of a cool way to use those parts that I wouldn't normally have a use for otherwise. So after we designed the wings, like I said, I did the front. So then I built all the way up to here, where that red paneling is, right here. And then we went to work on the body section. Now, this was a nightmare. What are we focusing on here? Probably that little dude, unfortunately, in the background. And not what I want to focus on. But anyway, the body section actually is the only part that is inaccurate. Look at me talking like a goon. Inaccurate to the actual scale of the dropship, only because to get the body strong enough to hold the big wings and the Technic inside, it ended up being a little longer for the top relay center of the dropship. That is actually 3-ish inches too long. And technically, now that I look at it, you could probably get rid of that spot with the square and move it all up. But at that point, I was like, it's already keeping it together, and this interesting little Technic bit here takes up this whole area. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll live. I don't love it being a little longer, but it's not the end of the world. So we built the body, and that took like 6 different takes to get the body right. Not so much the size or the shape or anything. That wasn't too hard. It's mostly the same as the top of the gunship. But then, I put the wing on, and it ripped the whole thing in half. And then I put both wings on, like my third attempt. And then after 2 minutes or so, they split down the middle, and then the wings broke. And it was just a grand old time. And I was pretty frustrated at that, but we finally figured it out through using a lot of like intricate wedge plating for sturdiness. Like, that section is never coming off. The wings are removable, but that middle section is never coming off. So there's just a little bit of your top greebling. I thought it was cool. I just had the parts to do it. Much different than the gunship because, it's so much bigger. And then I purposely left that gap over there for the relay thing, which was the last part I actually designed. I thought that turned out pretty neat. Just with the parts I had available to me. And the fact that I, got it at a slight angle with the Technic. I've built some big Technic sets in the past, but like actually designing with Technic is a whole different beast. So the fact that like I got it, especially like here, this Technic section here to keep the clamps on, I'm not quite sure where I thought of it, but it works. It keeps them at the angle. As you can see, they don't touch the ground. I originally considered using them for part of the stand, but they weren't strong enough even remotely to hold the weight of the body, so it is what it is. And then the clamps themselves, I actually kind of like the design. Obviously, I didn't have too many round pieces to work with, but I thought, based on the actual shape of the clamp and everything, it turned out pretty neat. And they do actually, they can be positioned, a little bit. Nothing crazy, but a little bit. This was interesting to design. Using those pieces, it was just hard because, like, in the back of my mind, I was like, yeah, everything's fine being designed. I can make the right shapes, with a little bit of ingenuity. And then, like, circular pieces were always the worst. Because the gunship just doesn't have those parts in it that the dropship would use. So we got the clamps on, and they were surprisingly easy. I put those on. So then the body was like upside down for a good 2 days. Well, I figured out how to get the stand to work. And like I said at the beginning, I fumbled around with like one big singular stand, maybe a stand like the gunship that supported the front. But the front is so sturdy enough that it didn't need it, and I didn't really want it to be off the ground in case that would cause any weird structural problems. So I just did 2 bigger ones. The front stand is actually the hardest to design because it's shorter than the back stand to allow the front section to slide in, and then those 2 top red pegs right in the middle of the screen is how the whole thing stays together. I mean, that's how the front half and the back half stay connected. Like, it's sturdy, surprisingly enough. And the weight is distributed nicely. I was worried about that, but it actually, with the wings being so big, it actually balances pretty well to about the center of gravity being where the clamps are. It's okay. And the body itself isn't super heavy, so the wings are the only thing. And once I got the wings on, then there really were no more issues. And then we built the engines, which are different than the gunship because there's no missile launcher on top or anything like that. I used the same design shape as the cannons. And in a real world, the entire engine section would be a 6x6 circle, but obviously the gunship didn't give me those big pieces, so those are like a touch not as tall as I'd like them to be, but they worked out. And that's basically it for the dropship. Here's your back detailing if anyone is curious. Pretty much the same as the gunship. And then if we want to go under here, you can see I did keep it open in the back on the small off chance that there's ever a Ultimate Collector's ATTE, because if it is scaled to the gunship, then it would fit underneath this dropship, because obviously that's what I scaled it to. So then the cannon of the walker would be able to rest in here because the cannon is obviously longer. Now, very early me was ambitious and thought, hey, I could maybe connect it to a walker somehow. But at the end of the day, this is a collector's model, so that's not happening. But one day, I'd love there to be an ATTE, but that's not like a plan of mine or anything. I've seen a couple that may be in the works that I may buy on my own, and maybe, but that would be just a me thing. I don't think I'm ever going to design a walker because that's a whole different kind of beast without, I don't know. The walker's got weird angles, as everybody knows. But lastly, I wanted to show, hopefully it fits on the table. It does. Lastly, I did want to show just how much bigger a dropship actually is compared to a gunship. So that is my custom Second Star Corps Republic gunship. Frankly, it was just the easier one to grab. I have a normal one too that I could put over there. But as you can see, it's not twice the length, but so in the actual Star Wars canon, dropships are about 30 to 35% bigger than a gunship. And like I said, I scaled it off the gunship. So the gunship does fit in the open section of the dropship like it should. And that's really all I was going for. But you can really see how different it is. And this is my first time actually seeing the two together. and I just think it looks pretty cool. It's taller. Even on the stand, the gunship isn't anywhere near the height, the length, obviously. Width-wise, the bodies are about the same, but then, you know, the gunship's like, I think it's 25 or 27 inches wide, and then the dropship is, like I said, 44. So it's a pretty good, considerable distance. But you can see all the similarities and the differences too. And then just as an homage to the actual Lego version of the dropship, that is probably the only one we'll ever get from them, I added a couple missiles on the wings just because, you know, each gunship has like 12 of them. So I didn't need those pieces too much after the greebling on the top of the antenna dish, so I just slapped those on there. But that'll do it to the first and only Ultimate Collectors Republic dropship review. If you guys could, you know, spread it around, that'd be cool. I'm not looking for anything crazy with this. I mainly did it to design for me, but why not make a video if it's the only one ever at this point? If you made it this far in the video, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. And like I said, there are no instructions. Sorry. It was pretty complicated. It's not the hardest set ever, but you know, if anyone else wants to give it a shot, let me know how yours goes. But there's a couple things I'd change overall, but at the end of the day, I think it turned out great. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys again at some time.